In this video, we're going to learn how to send information to a web server using PHP. Well, there are a couple of methods we can use for that purpose. The first method is called the GET method, and the second one is called the POST method. Okay, let's start with the GET method for now. So we're going to go to the Apple search page. So what we've got here is a search form where the user can input some text and then submit it, and then they can be directed to a results page. So if we look at the corresponding code for this form, we can see that the form has got a couple of attributes. So the first attribute is called action, and this is simply the file which we are going to send our inputs to be processed. Okay, and the second attribute is called method, and we can see that we're using the GET method with this form. So let's see how the GET method works. So let's write some text in there and submit the form. Okay, so now what we see at the top address bar is the file that we send the form to, okay, followed by question mark, and then followed by a pair which consists of name and value. If you go back to the form HTML code, the input has got a name Q, and that's exactly what we see here. Okay, and the value is the value that is the text that we have inputs inside our form. Okay, so with the GET method, we send information inside the URL. Okay, so the URL consists of the file which is going to process the inputs, question mark, and then pairs of name and values. If you have more than one pair, then they're going to be separated with an ampersand. Okay. One good thing about the GET method is that we can bookmark the page because the URL is full. Okay, so we can bookmark our page very easily using this URL. Okay, but since we are storing the data inside the URL, there is a limitation in terms of the amount of data we can send using the GET method. And also, we are not going to use the GET method to send some sensitive information, for example. So password, for example, or login details, we're not going to be able to use the GET method. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to our website and create our own example. So first of all, we're going to start with creating a form. Okay. So it's going to be a simple form. So we're going to have a text input and a submit button. So our input is going to be of type text, and I'm going to give it a name, username, and let's give it an ID, username as well. Let's add a label. Okay, and write some text there, username. And the label is for the element of ID, username. And at the end, let's have a submit button. So it's going to be an input of type submit. Okay, and let's give it a name, submit, and also a value, submit. All right. Okay, so if we save and refresh the page, we can see okay, let's refresh again. Okay, let's refresh again. Okay. All right, so we can see our form there. Okay, so it's a simple form. one input and a submit button. So now we want to use the get method, so we're gonna add an attribute to our form. So the method is going to be get. Okay. You can also add an action attribute if you want to. But by default, if we don't put any action attribute there, the file we're going to be sending the data to is going to be the same file we are working in, which is going to be 16.getandpost.php. Okay, so if you want to add an action attribute, it should be this. Okay, anyway. All right, so now let's try something with our form. We're going to input some text. And then we're going to submit the form. Okay, so we see at the top address bar is we can see the original address, and the reason why we see the same one is because we are using the same file. So we can see our file there, okay, followed by question mark, and then we can see pairs of name value. Okay, so the first one is the username. That's the name of our first input, and that's the value that we have input there. Okay, the text we have inputs inside the form, and then ampersand to separate the pairs, and then a second one. So we've got name submit, that's the second input, and the value is submit. Okay. All right, so now let's see how PHP is going to store this data for us, okay, to be used inside the PHP code. Okay, so there is a variable in PHP. It's called _get, which is going to store all the data we submit with a get form. And let's have a look at that variable. We can print it on the web page and see what elements it's got. So it's an array. It's called get. So we're gonna print it using the print _r function, and the variable name is $_get, and it's all capital letters. Okay, so if we save and refresh the page, we can see our variable there. So it's got a couple of elements. It's an associative array, so we've got keys and values. So each element has got a key which corresponds to the name of the inputs. So the first one is username, and the value is the value of that specific input. Okay. All right. So now let's write some simple code using this get variable. So we can, for example, check if this form is submitted. So to check that, we just need to check if the element of key submit, okay, exists. Okay, so we're just gonna write if so we're gonna go to the array get, and then we're gonna access this element using its key. So if get submit, then echo a paragraph, for example, saying that the get form has been submitted. Okay, so let's refresh the page, and we can see our paragraph there because the form has been submitted. Okay, so if we go back to the original page and try again, so at the moment the get variable is empty, so it's an empty array. But if we try to submit anything, now we can see that our variable now has got all the values in there, and we can see our paragraph there, meaning that the form has been submitted. Okay, so let's try something else. So if the form is submitted, we are going to check if the username exists. Okay. So again, same syntax. We're just gonna check if get, and we're gonna use the key username. Okay. Then this time we're gonna echo another paragraph, and we're gonna echo, for example, hi, followed by the username. Okay, which is going to be this value, and then for example, welcome to my page. Okay, so let's try this. If we refresh, now we can see the paragraph there because we've got a username that has been submitted. Okay, so if we submit again without any value there, okay, we don't have any username, so we don't see our paragraph. But if we try with a username, then we can see the paragraph there. Okay, so that's how the get method works. Okay, now let's move to the post method. Okay, so let's have a look at the PayPal login page. So if we look at the login form, and if we look at the corresponding code for it, so the action is sign in, so that's the file we send the inputs to, and the method we are using is post. Okay, so unlike the get method, the inputs sent using a post form are not going to show inside the URL. Okay, so if you send the password or any login details, then they're going to be sent in a secure way. Okay, and we're not going to see them in the URL. But we were not going to be able to bookmark the page because the URL is not going to be really full, not like the get method. Okay. Another advantage of the posts method is that the information is going to be sent as a package in a separate communication with the processing file or the processing script, and the amount of data we can send with the post method can be quite big. We can even send either text data or binary data, like we can upload a file, for example. Okay. All right, so let's create our own example. Okay, using the post method. So we're going to create another form. Let's copy paste the previous one. So the method this time is going to be post. Let's change the inputs. So we're going to have, rather than username, we're going to have country. Okay. And let's leave the same submit button. Okay, so if we go back to the original page and just refresh, we can see our second form there. Okay. All right, so now let's see how PHP is going to store data that we send with a post form. So let's write some data there. For example, USA, and just submit. Okay. So we don't see any change in the address bar, as we have said. Data is sent as a package in a separate communication. Okay. But if we check another variable similar to the get variable, which is called the post variable, which is also a super global variable that PHP provides for us. So we're gonna print that variable on the screen as we did with the get. So syntax is post, all capital letters. Okay, let's echo a paragraph just before that, saying get 1h3, for example. And another one here saying post. Okay, so if we refresh the page, we're going to be resubmitting the form. Okay, it's going to ask for confirming the form resubmission. So if we continue, so we can see our post variable here. Okay, so we can see that it's got a couple of elements. Each one has got a key and value. So the first one, the key is the name of the input country, the value is USA, and the second one is the name of the submit input, and the value is submit. Okay. All right, so let's write some simple code as we did with the get method. So we're gonna check if the form is submitted. So we're gonna write if, as we did with the get method, we're just gonna check the if there is a value, okay, or we're gonna check if the elements of key submit exists. So we're gonna say if post and then the key of the elements submits, yeah. Then we're going to echo form submitted. Or post form submitted. Okay, so if we refresh the page, we can see that the post form has been submitted. Okay, so now if the form is submitted, let's check if we have an element of key country. Let's see if the user has submitted the country. So let's say if post country, okay, then we're going to echo a paragraph, and this time we're going to write your country is, let's add the variable, and let's try this. So we're gonna refresh the page, and now you can see your country is followed by the value of the elements of key country, okay, which is USA. If we submit the form without a value or without any text, then this condition is not going to be true. Okay. Okay, so that was a quick introduction to the get and post methods. Later on, we're gonna use these methods in many examples, especially when we create our PHP websites.